which is tonight a joint commission with the City Commission for July 10th, 2024. And before we go any further, I would like for us to take a quick minute to just introduce ourselves around the table so we all know who we are. I'm Jennifer Cochran, Chair of the CRC.
Brian Pahoka is a member of the CRC.
Amy Metz, same as him.
Ann Hoganson, same.
Karen Manaski, Deputy Clerk.
Amy Gillis, City Clerk.
Brad Fowler, City Attorney.
Mark Gifford, City Manager.
Amanda Johnson, City Commissioner.
David Rhodes, City Commissioner.
For the City Commission.
Lauren James, City Commissioner. Karen Simmons, City Commissioner.
Steve Gove, PR.
Yay.
And AV.
What's that?
And AV.
And AV, yes.
I don't think they heard you, Stacy.
Stacy Weaver, CRC.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, we are waiting on one of our members, and one of our members, Jennifer Knopf-Snyder, is unable to be here with us this evening. So, roll call. Mrs. Gillis.
Cochran.
Here.
Hoganson. Here. Schneider. Metz.
Here.
Neal.
Present.
Mahoka. Weaver.
Okay. Mayor Gunther, you want to do, or are you doing roll call for City Commission?
City Commission, please.
Gunther.
Here.
James.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Rhodes.
Here.
Simmons.
Here.
Next item on our agenda, we need to approve a resolution excusing Jennifer Knopf-Snyder from tonight's meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Amy and then Brian. All those in favor? Do we need to roll call on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Resolution is approved. Now, the next one, we need to approve a resolution accepting David Rhodes' resignation. As you all know, David was recently appointed to fill the vacant seat on the City Commission, and we want to say hearty congratulations and best of luck to you. And now we're going to make your departure from CRC official here. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Second.
Who was it again?
Ann and Amy.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That resolution is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or changes, Mrs. Gillis? No? Voice vote? Voice vote, okay? Roll call vote. Voice vote.
On the agenda? We don't need one.
Don't need one, okay. Approval of the minutes of our June 12th meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, additions to the minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of June 12th?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Approved. Mrs. Gillis, do we have any communications? Communications, we do not have any committee reports at this time. Any old business, there is none on the agenda, so off we go on our new business. So, our goal this evening, and first of all, I want to thank the City Commission again for taking their time this evening to be here. I appreciate that this was yet another evening taken out of your lives, but we are very grateful to have your input this evening. As the materials that were sent forward to you, our goals this evening are first and foremost to discuss Chapter 6, get your input on the changes that we sent forward to you for your consideration, and also to hear from you any other things that struck your interest, whether you think they should be deleted, revised, otherwise changed, and or was there anything that you felt was missing from that section that you might want to include. Following that, we'd like to get to the issue of Chapter 5, Section 5.5C, which, as you know, has to do with whether or not we want to tackle changing how the terms are defined for commission and then separating out the meters. So I'm hoping that we will get to that as well. Our goal this evening is to have as thorough a discussion as possible. Then what we will be doing, of course, recording the notes, we will be taking all the feedback back with us to our, and deliberating on it at our August meeting. Okay, any questions on the process before we proceed? Okay. Let's start, I guess, for ease, with the changes that were sent forward to you. And Stacy, you got the most up-to-date version, yes?
The first one is gonna be 5.5, where we're starting.
Chapter 6 first.
Chapter 6 first.
That's okay. Section 6.1.
It's after page 15, right? The last page is 15.
I've got so many versions of the
Yeah.
charter here.
15, so like 1 or 2 through 15 is what you've worked on so far, right? That's one thing, and then this is what we're going over right now.
Right, right. Did any of you see anything in the changes that the Charter Commission forwarded to you for your review that you had any kind of problem with?
Page 2, section 6.6C. Is the highlighted portion added or was there previously or,
It was there previously.
okay. Just a weird
Did
thing
you
to
highlight
have to
that for a
say.
reason?
Yeah, because you guys were kind of wondering about the English
We were
language.
going to take it to the wordsmithing committee, I think, because the language felt somewhat foreign.
Yeah, it just, I mean, doesn't even need to be there.
That was our discussion, whether it
Yeah.
needs to be there or not. We was pretty split on that too, whether it needs to be there. So we want to get your opinion. Should we have that sentence in there?
In my opinion, no. It's not necessary and it's almost it's negative, even though
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary.
I would just have a question. If we were requested for a copy of it in Arabic, not that we wouldn't want to accommodate that, would we be forced to accommodate that, and how would we accommodate that?
I don't know that we'd be forced to, but I don't know how we would.
Right. So that's I'm wondering if that was the intent in having it in there, is to clarify how it would be presented, and this is the only way we're gonna present it until we're forced to otherwise.
Probably why it was in there.
It seems like an outdated mindset.
Okay.
I'm just wondering as well, with modern technology and the translation function that's available, whether it's necessary for us to have that or not.
Whether it's a special program or not, I don't know, we'd have to ask.
In my opinion, it's just not, it's not necessary and it's an old way of thinking about things and it's 2024, we shouldn't have to say anything about it.
I wouldn't trust.
Trust the translations.
I would to get the general gist, but if there was any kind of legal language that was specific, I would not trust.
Kind of miss the
Translation,
nuances.
yeah, it could totally like come out the opposite.
Oops, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, I'm lost. Why is it bad to say it's fluent in the English language? What's the innuendo, or I don't get
So, the
it?
city of Big Rapids in the United States of America, why would we have to say that it needs to be in English? That's what I mean, it's just,
Because that's what we
The assumption would
Well,
be.
you're just saying it's,
Assumption.
saying it's obvious, or it's
yeah,
assumed.
I'm just saying it's obvious, like. That's my take on it, if you're asking for our opinion.
Yes, we are asking for.
My opinion is that it's unnecessary. Others may feel differently, and that's why you're asking for our opinion.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to throw in on that one?
Well, I have a question for legal sitting over there. So,
No.
do you think it was put in there to, like somebody said it, to avoid having to do a translation in a different language, which we can't do unless there was somebody on staff that knew how to do it?
Probably just to avoid the issue of somebody asked for it in a different language. I don't think that it's, I don't think it harms anything to be in there because you're just stating you're gonna do it in English. So if anybody comes and says, can I get a Spanish translation of the minutes, you can say, sorry, no, we're not required under the charter. But even if you didn't have that, someone comes and says, I'd like a copy in Spanish, you say, we don't have that capability. There's nothing in the charter requiring you to do it in other languages. So
Okay, so you're
I don't
safe
think-
either way.
Either way, I don't think legally it poses an issue. The only comment I would have is if it's already in there, unless there's a reason to get rid of it, why get rid of it? But other than that, I don't think there's a legal requirement one way or the other that you keep it from that.
Is there discussion about changing it to just saying that, the city of Big Rapids copies in language?
This sentence is only dealing with the commission itself, is it the official proceedings of the city commission?
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's, is it not? Well,
It's interesting because it says that the official proceedings of the commission shall be kept in English. I think it means the records of the proceedings, meaning the minutes, but it
It's,
doesn't say that. It says the official proceedings, which.
okay. All right, well, I guess we can still have a conversation about that. Thank you very much for your input, everyone. I wanted to go back to section 6.2, special meetings, and just to clarify from my own notes here. A question, I believe a question came up that I had recorded about the city commission's ability to hold virtual meetings. Where did we leave that?
Open meeting act, so we can't hold virtual meetings.
Open Meetings Act says you cannot hold virtual meetings. Okay, so when,
Military.
Yeah, unless you're on military service as a member of the body, you're not allowed to participate in a meeting or remote participation. They allowed for it during COVID for a specific time, but they rescinded that at the end of 2022.
so then right in the middle of that, excuse me, in the middle of that paragraph, Stacy, are you showing that? Yeah, we struck the line starting with or left at the member's usual place of residence, all the way through the next line where it says meeting, correct? And we just inserted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. And that should cover that issue, correct? I just wanted to be clear on that. Excuse me again. Were there any other items in chapter 6 that the commission wanted to talk about, or anything that they wanted to include?
are there only 9 sections of section 6?
Right.
That's all there is? One of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about was defining or spelling out what the procedure is if we have a city commissioner who leaves in the middle of their term or any part of the term. Because right now, the language is just very general. It says the city commission may or must appoint a new city commissioner, and there's 45 days to do it. That's not the exact language.
What section is that, Kim?
That's in section 5.
Stacy can go back to it. I think that might be a 4.
I don't know, I thought we were talking about all of the, I guess I thought that's where that was.
Talk about going to 90 days.
Yeah.
change it to 90
Either
days.
that or it's, either that or it's in 7. I don't think it's in 6.
I don't see it in six.
In terms of all this?
One where we changed it to
Section-
45 days to.
Section 4.4. Section 4.4 is filling vacancies in elected offices. Is that the issue you're talking about? Section 4.4, filling.
No,
Oh, there it
yes,
is,
it's
right there.
4.4.
Yeah, the 45.
So, what I wanted to do was spell out the process for replacing that position. I think that we should, spell out that there should be, like, the exact process that we just went through, where we, posted that people had however many days to submit an interest form, they submitted an interest form, they answered some questions, and then the committee held interviews, and then we appointed someone, that had submitted, that went through that process. I think that process is transparent, and, I think that we should public know that that's what we do, as opposed to just picking a random person and appointing them. So from a transparency standpoint, I thought that that would be a good thing to talk to you guys about, consider. I don't know if we can, if 90 days is too much, maybe 60, the day doesn't really bother me. And then if we get to the end of the process where we're interviewing people and we can't come to resolution, I still want there to be something in there that says we can appoint someone, right?
I think that's what the 90 days was, to give you a little bit longer.
Right, I'm just saying, I think we should spell out what we do.
No, I think the only problem with that is that could almost be more like a city policy. When you start putting things in the charter with etched in stone, it can't be changed unless it's a vote of the people.
Yes.
You know, and that is, when things change and things get updated, things get obsolete, might be an interest indicator isn't the way you want to go in 5 years or 3 years. Now you're set to where it says this is what you have to do. You're almost doing this to the staff. It's like, well, we can't change what we're doing because it's in the charter. That's why we have policies, we have ordinances, we have, other stuff other than what's in the charter. We can, and you don't, because the charter is a vote of the people. You gotta be real careful what you put in there. You can't change it.
We don't have a great policy on that whole process either, right, Karen?
Right, we don't, it's just, we've done it twice. I think that there's a way to word it without tying our hands. Without saying it must be this special form, or it must, I just think that, it should be in there. I think that it is something that the people should vote on, because it's an elected position. And, I just don't wanna leave it too vague.
So could we put something in that said that the commission had to determine their own process when they approve their own rules?
Oh, the rules of procedure?
You have to approve your own rules of procedure, and we could say, when you form
it's
those
not-
rules,
Yeah.
you need to figure
That makes
something
sense,
out.
yeah.
Because the thing is, it says that
Yeah, it needs figuring out.
it says that you can appoint someone, but only until the term ends that they're filling the vacancy for, and then it goes back to an election, right? So that could only be for 3 months or a year or something. So you're not appointing someone like indefinitely, right? It's a stopgap because you need somebody else there, and I think that would require you to have some flexibility because it might not be easy to find someone.
No, yeah,
I would appreciate something in there that states that kind of calls to attention the new commission as they come into session and are creating their rules and procedures that they're gonna follow. I like that idea. It kind of forces the issue, brings it back up to the forefront at the beginning of our calendar year, so if something happens throughout that year, we already know where to go and how to process. And if it doesn't fit the needs of that current commission to do it how we've done it, they can have, I like that adaptability.
And those rules are public for everyone to see, so you still have that level of transparency.
And it forces our hand into doing it.
That's a real weak part of our journey. I think that, let's say I drop dead on the second day of my tenure, that means the city commission could appoint somebody for almost a 4-year term.
You or me? There's
One of
a
us.
difference between you and me.
Mine's 4 years.
No, but you're the mayor, and there's the mayor pro tem.
Well, yeah, okay.
So which are we talking about?
What I'm saying is, I think we need to look at those rules too. Like, say we decided, this commission could have decided, we don't feel like adding a 5th person. That shouldn't be our
I see what
option.
you're saying.
No, I
Shouldn't
think
be our
the
option.
charter stipulates that the vacancy needs to be filled. And if it doesn't happen through an appointment process, then your next mission is a special
But
election.
there are no times on anything. Brad reviewed it for me, because I thought, well, what if this would have happened like 4 months before the election? Why would you appoint somebody? So in other words,
I
isn't
think-
that what you said?
You have 45 days to appoint somebody after a vacancy is created. If you don't, then it would go to a special election, but there's nothing required.
There's nothing required. The next special election after November is May by state law. So you'd go a whole 6 months without an extra person. So that all needs tweaking through our policies.
But so here's my take
Right.
on it. So
Needs work.
it is our job as a governing body to appoint someone within 45 days or 90 days. It is my responsibility as an elected person to do that, to work with the commission and the mayor and do that. It should never come, if it comes to a special election, then I am not doing my job. You know, that's just how I read it. Other people may
Yeah.
not, but
I
like.
know what you're saying, but
But I think it's too loose, it needs, yeah.
so Jennifer, I think what we're saying is make it in the charter so that it refers to the commission to write a policy that's proper. That's the way I'm reading
Or
it.
you could say you do appoint within 45 days. If you don't, then it will go to a special election.
Right.
Yes.
In other words, we need more concrete.
Basically, you're saying it forces it to a special, that puts you on a clock as the commission.
But
You don't
if
act.
we put a hard rule like that, what if the 45 days is up 2 days before the election in November? Means we gotta have a special election that's Tammy, she
At
likes.
least 3 months to do an election. Just
Okay.
nail it in 2
So-
days.
Couple things, did I just hear, so help me make sure I'm hearing this correctly, that, you want the charter to stipulate that the city commission needs to formulate a policy which they're going to include in their rules of procedure, that they will have voted on their rules of procedure?
That's fair.
Something like
I think we're okay with that.
And then I think, special election part, especially for the reasons that you just mentioned, because it's like, does that even need to be in there? Because
Shouldn't
If
be
we're
the
gonna-
option of the 4 commissioners who are still here to decide whether or not we have a special election or not.
Well,
We should not have that authority. It
let me-
should
let
be
me
spelled
try
out.
The charter actually says if 3 or more vacancies exist simultaneously, which I'm not sure has that ever been the case? Lorraine, you're the
Not that I'm aware of.
longest serving here. The city clerk, so it doesn't say just to fill 1 vacancy,
it's two separate things.
yeah.
I do that with paragraphs.
You know how when you keep reading something, you start missing some of the words because you just see what you want to see? Anyway, yeah, let me just throw my 2 cents in, kind of to echo what Karen said, and that is that having a procedure in place is what helps to build trust with the public. If you follow that consistently, then that says to them, the process is fair, it has integrity, it's not being capricious. So, and I do think that the rules of procedure would be a great place to locate that. So how's about if we can hammer out the wording on that if you like, and then we can ship that to you and see you feel about it, and then you send back any edits or whatever. Sound good?
We have to work on that policy, gang.
Real quick, go back to section 6.2.
Well, so, okay, so this is a real wordy type thing for me. There's two different thoughts in that paragraph. There should be a new paragraph after election, the third line election. There should be, yes, a break there, and that's a nerdy little word thing, but.
You know, I think that's a legitimate comment. It shifts your focus from one topic to the next, because those are two different things.
I agree with Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could even be maybe.
That's, yeah, I'll let you guys decide, but, yeah. Now what did you want, Brad?
Section 6.2, what we just talked about with the special meetings. You're gonna cross off, so basically under the Open Meetings Act, you're required to post within 18 hours, and then you have to post it on the website and in a public place in City Hall. I haven't done a deep dive on the Open Meetings Act, on the issue of what is required in terms of what gets sent to the commissioners individually. So before you, I don't know that there's a requirement in there that you get an email or anything like that. So if you're gonna cross that, basically what the charter that provision that's in place does is provides an extra step of you have to post it according to the Open Meetings Act, but then you also have to email and send it to each commissioner so they're aware of it.
So you're recommending not taking that out?
Right, I just wanna be careful, because you're saying in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, but if there's nothing in the Open Meetings Act about what
Need
individually
two
gets sent.
things there, it's two
What
different.
doesn't get sent
Okay.
individually to the commissioners, and unless I'm missing something in the Open Meetings Act, I didn't see anything, I just looked at it on my phone.
The reason we struck that, or one of the reasons, is modes of communications change.
Sure.
You know, 10 years from now, when we get in a direct letterhead, there's no email. So,
Come right
Say-
into
You
your
could just say the
noggin.
notice be sent personally or, electronically or whatever, just so that they're getting
Personal
notices, personal notification of all special meetings directly to them, not just posted at the city hall and on the website, because they might not check, so.
Very good.
So, tell me again what you want to change there.
Sorry.
Tell me again what you want to change there.
So, I don't think I would add in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, because I don't think there's anything in the Open Meetings Act directly about individual notifications to commissioners. I would leave it as is, or just change it and simplify it to say, each member of the city commission, shall be delivered personal notice, or email notice, if that's your preferred method of all special meetings.
Personally notified.
Or shall be
Yeah,
personally
personally
notified.
Personally
Shall be
notified.
personally notified by, you don't have to specify any means, just personally notified.
So, what do you guys think about having these special meetings where there's only 4 people present? There's 5 of us.
I guess I don't know where you're at.
So, right after the red part of Open Meetings Act. We're,
Still in 6.2.
Yeah, I'm still in
The right
6.2.
middle of the
After the red.
paragraph, right after that red, in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, if 4 members are present.
I can bring up a couple of examples as to
that would be
why
great. That would be
we
perfect.
do that. Years ago, we used to do budget meetings, and we would have a budget, couple forums or hearings, one at noon and one at night, so that people could, the citizens had a chance either during the day or at night to attend. But not all city commissioners could attend. Sometimes we'd only have 3, sometimes we'd have 4, but we would rarely have all 5. That would be one of our special meetings. Or another one, I think not that too long ago, Dawn come and said, hey, from the DART, we need this contract done right away. The deadline is next week, I just got it. Okay, we're gonna do a special meeting, let's hurry up and get it done. Maybe all of you can attend, but we can get this contract done and get it, into MDOT.
Or natural disaster.
As long as we have 4. That's the part that I.
You could have windstorms and
Oh,
things
sure.
are shut down and we need to meet. and-
Yeah, totally. It's the,
There are reasons, we have
It's not
that.
saying that everybody who's available can't be there.
Right, I guess, what I'm saying is, do there have to be 4 members present for it to be a special meeting?
If it's a special meeting that's going to involve any kind of money, you have to have 4 people.
Okay.
Or it's not worth even having the meeting.
But we can have a regular meeting with
But
3.
you, if it didn't have anything to do with finances, you could have your 3 and you'd be fine. But I've attended in the past a special meeting at the water plant when we had a storm that went through and they had to do some,
Tore the roof off.
tore the roof off, and we were just all called to the water plant, and there we stood conducting business, so,
We did.
yeah, you know, you don't know.
Go back to the wording of if 4 members are present. So it's saying, I don't understand why 4 people have to be present, because it's.
I'm not sure why it doesn't say 3.
That's why I was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like,
3.
It kind of conflicts with other provisions of the
That's
charter,
what-
because there's a few listed things that where
Yes.
4 commissioners are required.
Right.
yes,
So it sounds like we need to stipulate 4 members if issues of money are being discussed.
or if quorum is needed.
Well, that's already
If quorum is
stipulated.
It's already
used, then if
it's already
it's needed,
required, it's already required in other provisions of the charter that you have to, in order to do certain things, like adopt an ordinance, you have to have 4 members vote, so you wouldn't be able to do that even if you had a quorum at a special meeting. So I don't know that you need if 4 members are present, I think that was probably just a,
I think it's about it says that any business that may become before a regular meeting of the city commission can be conducted at a special meeting if there are 4 members. So if there was an emergency and 4 of you could make it, right, and there was some other regular business that you could address at this special meeting, you would be able to do it.
Right, and,
Because you have 4 members at the special meeting.
right, and what I'm saying is that there is city business that we can conduct with 3.
your quorum is 3.
That's all I'm
There's only a
saying
few
is,
specific things that require 4.
yes.
So why is this
Why make
requiring
it
4 is your
So
question?
why is it requiring 4 and not 3?
So that clause extends to all possible city business, not just.
It doesn't define, like, it doesn't say
I
what.
think that's the intent.
You could just say, instead of if 4 members are present, if a quorum is present.
Yeah.
Yep.
Back to that previous sentence, Jennifer, you asked what to take out. Instead of saying written notice stating the time, purpose, and location of the special meeting shall be delivered personally to each member, blah, blah, blah. You could just say, each member of the city commission shall be personally notified of a special meeting at least blank hours in advance. I mean, the statute requires public notice at least 18 hours in advance, so you might say 18 hours for commission members too,
For what, the special meeting?
for a special meeting.
So, let's say, 4 out of 5 commissioners really don't like one commissioner. And they hold a special meeting, right, where they know that that member can't be present.
That's the nature of politics sometimes.
Well,
And,
if you
yeah.
have regular meetings and people say, well, I'm sorry, I can't attend, and there's only 3, so you have quorum, that's one thing. But if you hold a special meeting, right, where you can still perform regular meeting business, and one person
known unavailable.
is known to not be available for that special meeting, I'm just exploring, is there a reason why there could be a higher bar for a special meeting to hold regular business, right?
Yeah, I guess the reason for the special bar is it's short notice, right?
So you have to have one extra person to do regular business at a special meeting, not special meeting business. You can do special meeting business with less. I'm just, like, maybe that's why it's 4.
Why they came up with.
Yeah,
That might be the reason they go for it. I mean, that makes sense.
That does make sense.
So it's not like, it's just trying to like close a loophole if somebody was trying to be malicious in some way or something.
gotcha.
It's
Okay,
my hunch.
that makes sense.
What did you decide here?
How negative can we
Are we sticking with 4?
Stick with 4.
Well, then, I mean, that makes sense, but I think if you guys could wordsmith it to make it clearer, what,
We can do that.
The 4 members must be present for the city commission to conduct special.
Conduct business.
business that may become at a regular meeting, a special meeting of the city commission.
Did you just read exactly what it said? You just read exactly what it already says.
Move on. We haven't, especially in my 4 years, so. You know,
We're very efficient, Mayor.
because I think
Oh, there was a.
they can be deemed quite non-transparent.
Well, there might not all emergencies during that.
Yeah, I feel like you had you had a state of emergency. I feel like
That's
we had,
right.
yep.
A special meeting for Epley.
Yeah.
We did have,
Oh,
Yeah,
Special meeting.
lied again.
Yes, you did. You got caught. Behave yourself.
All right, anything else on 6.2? Do you folks have any other comments, options, whatever?
The non-discrimination clause, that's all brand new, is it? And is it all legal?
What section are you at, Mayor?
4.9, it's all new on civil rights. Is everything there legit?
I have comments about that I was preparing a memo to get to you guys on. I just read it today.
Well, just so as you know, we created a subcommittee to wordsmith, for wordsmithing, so that we wouldn't waste all of our meeting time trying to wordsmith. And this was not intended to be a last draft of this. This is just kind of a marker place that we had agreed that we'd like a non-discrimination and civil rights section in here. It's not necessarily what it's gonna look or sound like.
What's your questions, Brad?
So my comments, and I have the draft memo here, it's not finalized yet, but what I said about it was, I think it's laudable to include. I don't know that the charter is the best place to include it for the reason that Tammy said earlier, that everything in the charter is very hard to change and permanent. And this is an area that's constantly being litigated and changed in the law. So you run the risk of, down the road, say the law changes to add a characteristic to the civil rights law, then all of a sudden your charter is outdated or it doesn't reflect state or federal law anymore. And you can't really willy-nilly change the charter, so you're gonna have that provision for a long time.
So we could use vaguer terminology such as protected statuses.
We have
Yes.
policies.
So,
There you go.
if you're gonna, yeah, I said if you're inclined to put a provision like this in the charter, I suggested tethering it to state and federal law more tightly so that if federal and state law changes, it doesn't negate the charter. So basically, I have draft language here, and I can give it to you for the definition, but, in the exercise of their powers or in the performance of their duties, all officials, officers, appointees, and employees of the city shall ensure that no individual or group engaged in the conduct of official business or seeking to do business with the city is unlawfully discriminated against because of any characteristic protected under federal, state, or local law.
That's
Sounds good.
what Ferris does, Ann. Sound like Ferris's?
So just the way that you read that made my mind think lawfully discriminate.
Unlawfully.
I know, but like the opposite of that is lawfully discriminate, so what would,
Well, I mean, it basically that covers
Discrimination? I gotta think about that one.
anything that breaks the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, or
Okay.
that violates the AC,
Specifically discrimination in breach of someone else's right. So
Otherwise-
just discrimination, somebody being a jerk.
because you've got potential litigation for the city then if you're, I mean, the language as drafted kind of created some new classifications that aren't defined in law. And that's just begging lawsuits against the city, which I don't know that we want, so.
what was the thought process of
on record, though.
including it in the charter? Cause we do have it in policies and procedures. I'm just interested in your, kind of the commission's thought process.
We just felt it needed to be there, it needs to be put in writing.
As a value statement that the city of Big Rapids non-discrimination and supporting the
We codify our expectations for the commission, independent of any process or rules of procedure that they set for themselves.
Does it belong in this section?
Hash that around a little bit.
We hashed that around a little bit.
And that's about the only place we found that it really fit in the best.
Okay.
I'll send you this memo and that language to your commission so you can look at it and figure out if you wanna use it or where you wanna put it and all that.
Thank you.
We tackle term limits?
Well, last
Last
call,
big one?
meeting on chapter 6. I It feels like we've,
Well, we're jumping around a little bit.
That's okay.
I had everything. I don't.
you had everything. Let's tackle the term limits. This is section 5.5, letter C. And again, this is something we've been knocking around for a little while now. We made a hash of it, trying to do it 4 years ago or whenever.
When was the vote of the people? I can't remember when that was. And it was our policy was resoundingly accepted.
20 years.
There was a vote of the people on this?
Yeah, because we put it on the ballot and it just, we didn't do our due diligence, I'm sorry to say. So, so the question is, A, is this something that you want to consider, rationale being, number one, understanding the importance of institutional memory, experience over a number of years. Anyone who's gotten into city government knows there's a learning curve. And it's valuable to have people in city government who've been working in it for a while and it's kind of worked out the kinks and gotten kind of up to speed and so forth. And it's really a question of how many years would we want commissioners to serve, how many years would you want a mayor to serve? And that's kind of an open question.
The way it's worded now, it's 12 years total combination,
Correct.
which I think was
Consecutive.
really smart of whoever drafted that, because I'm a term limit guy. If you look at our government right now, oh my God. 48 years as senator, can't even speak. I mean, to me, we need fresh blood all the time in the town. And if you have to have turnover, you have to have turnover and bring new people in. That's just my theory. You get too old, you get too set in your ways, and bringing in fresh people like David is helpful. That's just how I feel about it personally. So I think the way it's written now is really smart and good.
And there's a carve out so you can take a year off and then rerun.
Yeah, there she is. Here's the carve out.
You have to take a whole term off, don't you?
1
Well,
year.
Oh, so you're
calendar
thinking
year.
maxing that
generally
out.
two because of the way the voting, so.
So
It's gonna be appointed after one.
here's,
Right.
here's the thing. Let's say you have a really great commissioner, who's run for 3 terms, been elected, decides that they want to be mayor. I would not have a problem with someone serving as mayor for 12 years for 3 terms. Because again, it's the will of the people, right? You need to have checks and balances in place, but that's just another perspective. It's one opinion.
But you certainly wouldn't want to do 12 years as a commissioner and then 12 years as a mayor. 24 years, come on now.
Well, but it's,
It could happen.
it's again, it's the will of the people.
And the people voted on this. The people
It's not-
voted on
It's not the
this.
will of the people, it's the will of the people that go out and vote.
Well, but it's the same thing.
And here's the
I don't-
thing. Yeah, first of all, you gotta think about the difficulty we have getting people to run.
But that's not
Second of
a reason.
all is, again, we don't wanna cut off our nose to spite our face by making terms too short because, again, it takes time to understand how to do this well. And, I guess the question is, how long is that? What is an optimal time? The argument against term limits, which has been traditionally that we have a natural way to do term limits, and that's at the ballot box. Our difficulty, as it is across this entire country, is that we are still at an average turnout rate of like 14% for municipal elections. So, part of our mission, shall we say, is to, try and get more people to vote, to be more representative, but these are the things we wrestled with back in the day, whenever that was. I've completely lost track of time by this point.
19 maybe?
Was
I
it
think it was 19.
Tammy, were you the clerk when the ballot was taken on term limits?
It was
Those very provision was voted on in a ballot provision in 2019.
It is around then.
It was
So
around
it
that.
wasn't that long ago.
No, about 5 years. And the people
about
voted. I mean, by changing that, you'd be saying the vote of those folks back then has no meaning. You think we're smarter?
Well, from a practical standpoint, I mean, whatever changes are made have to be voted on as well, so are you gonna get pushback from the voters if you change what they just enacted 5 years ago? I don't know.
Well, they didn't enact it. There was, so term limits were one thing up until the charter changed in 2012. They used to, the mayor ran every 2 years, the max was 8 years, then it went to 4, everybody's terms are 4, and the max is 12. Then we went for some period of time, I think it was around 2019, there was a provision that was put to the voters on changing the charter on that topic specifically, and it failed. That's what the mayor's talking about.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, spot me on this, Mark. I seem to remember we were talking about 12-year commission terms and 8-year mayor terms. But I remember Lorraine even saying at the time, 20 years, OMG, no way.
I feel
So,
about it too.
I don't understand how taking 1 year off and then running for another 20 or another 12 years is term limiting. If you're concerned,
I agree with
it's
that
term
one.
limits,
Take it out.
then 1 year off is irrelevant.
I'm with you.
Okay, so then you need to throw out that argument unless we're changing this right now, because you don't wanna change the charter because people voted on it,
No,
but
he's
you
talking
are
about
also
I didn't-
arguing against people
No, I didn't
serving
say
for 20 years.
I didn't say that.
So you can't have both.
Yeah, no, he was, so,
this is,
Mayor,
There's a little
what,
poo-poo in there.
what in your mind, what did the people vote no on? What was it that they voted no on?
A commissioner serving for 12 years and then becoming the mayor for.
For 12 years.
for 8 years.
For 8
I
years.
think it was
They
8.
voted no on.
They just saw 20
They
years.
did not want to do that.
It didn't
20
pass.
years was in that
They just-
ballot, wasn't it?
It was 12 and 8, and all they saw was 20. And, we didn't provide them the best rationale for changing their minds, so.
Maybe that's two separate questions, is one, do you wanna change the term limits from what they are currently, which is 12 years total? And two, do you wanna have it so that you can have a year off and then come back on for another 12? Two separate questions.
Foster on that.
I agree with,
The only way you could come back within that 1 year is if you're appointed, because technically it's every 2 years that there's a municipal election.
But then,
So actually, it would be 2 years off.
Unless you appointed
Can't
them.
be one, really.
yeah.
I mean, it's still the same thing.
Same thing.
Letting
Yeah, if you're,
somebody
you
can-
either have term
somebody
limits or
can-
you don't.
Right, like, I mean, if you take a year off, you take 2 years off, but you started serving when you were 30 and now you're 70, and you've taken leave 3 times, you still ended up serving 60 years or something. I mean, that sounds outlandish. But I would rather, it makes more sense to me to say, look, you can't serve as a commissioner for more than like 16 years throughout your entire life. But if you want to run for mayor and serve as mayor for 10 years or however long, that seems like different enough to me that I would not, I would separate them personally. That makes sense to me.
Because it's a different position, so the.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to me,
It's a whole lot different, I can tell you that.
it makes sense to me that a commissioner experienced in the commission would be a qualified
Yes,
mayoral candidate.
yes.
there is some bias there. The positions should be taken as separate from each other, commissioner versus mayor, right? And if you want to limit a person to lifetime service, that's fine, but, the current rules, as I see it, kind of have a sort of mutability between those two rules, and you're just limited based on duration of service. To your point, absolutely, we don't want somebody who's sitting, rotting, calcifying in that chair for 50 years, but at the same time, that's not really a problem that we have here. That's a problem they have in the Senate, places where people are much better compensated than you folks are.
Be part of
It's not a problem we have here, and part of our role is to fit this document to our community and its needs.
If you do lifetime, I mean, you also don't have a real big pot of candidates in a small town. So what are you gonna do if you don't get any candidates?
Jennifer, here's my worry about,
Like Lorraine, this is her second, coming on the commission. I mean, okay, Lorraine, you can't do it anymore. what are you gonna get? I mean, and maybe
John
nobody's gonna, if anybody's going to step up, I mean.
My worry is if you include this with term limits on this ballot, they're gonna bomb the whole thing. And you're gonna have a lot of really good changes in there. As soon as you fight the term limit battle publicly, it could lose. Your whole charter revision could lose because you decided to go 12 and 12 or whatever. That's my worry.
Our process, I'm glad you raised that actually, because the process really is, if we were to decide to pursue this, we have to get public input. And depending on what the public gives back to us, we would either include it or not include it. Because if it looked very clearly like the public said, no way Jose to this, we would not torpedo.
It wasn't very long ago the vote happened.
Yeah, but we didn't do that then. That's my point.
Yeah,
We just laid it on the
they're
ballot.
gonna flock to the charter commission meetings? I don't think so. We don't even get them.
Oh, no,
No,
you gotta go to them.
Yeah.
We would be putting out, surveys, figuring out focus groups, whatever we would need to do. But that's what would need to happen, because ultimately, the voters need to approve this document in
Right.
2026.
There's a lot of good changes in it.
And we don't wanna torpedo it by simply sliding something in there that
After
we're
the,
gonna get.
so, Eugene's a good.
So, here's,
That's
I
right.
think having separate terms, that it's not a total of 12 on both. This is the term for city commissioners, this is the term limit for the mayor. Whether that's 3 terms, 2 terms, 2 terms, 2 terms, whatever that is, you guys will get feedback from the public for that. I do think that because we are such a small area, and because we don't have a lot of people interested in public office, we don't want to make it so that a great public servant can't come in and step into a role if there's no one else. I don't think 1 year makes sense. I think it should be tied to an election cycle. So either it's,
It is.
right, so either it's 2 years or it's a full term. And a full term kind of makes sense because we're talking in terms of terms. You have to take a full 4 years off, or whatever that might be. I think you guys getting input, but I don't want us to tie the hands of future people because it's so limiting.
12 years is not limiting, I don't think.
No, what I'm
12 years
talking
is
about
good.
is
1
having
year or 2 years?
the 1 year, 2 year, 4 year thing. I think that is to remove it completely or make it so that they can't do that.
I mean, how many years did you take off from terms?
2. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, if I had to wait 4 to run again, I don't know if I would. But I'm 75, and I've told Mark many times, I'm not turning into a Joe Biden. So my hope is, I mean, I will know when I'm done. I'm gonna know that. I'm gonna know, I'm not running anymore.
You think you're gonna know, Joe thought he knew.
I know, but he doesn't. Anyway, leave him out of it. So it's like, I would still be there. I could still help. I could still do things, but there's gonna come a time when I'm gonna know I'm not gonna put all this energy in this.
Well, and,
But I know that.
But
Right.
to speak to, you were saying you wouldn't wanna wait 4 years.
I don't know if I would have ran again.
That's understandable, but you also didn't run unopposed.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't?
no, you didn't.
No, you
were
didn't.
opposed.
David ran against
Oh,
you.
no, I was, yeah. I got it backwards.
Two of the most candidates for commission that we've ever had.
No, I took it backwards. I'm sorry. I switched it in my brain.
So,
Joe.
I mean, I understand your concern, but like, that's not always gonna be the case. But at least
No.
in the case that you're citing, that wouldn't have been an issue.
Right.
I also think, it's been thrown out that if we make this change, that it could torpedo, right, the whole thing. Only 14% on average vote? How many do you think read the charter?
0.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody.
So I'm just throwing it out there that like, while this issue could be contentious, if the public cared about it, they'd have to actually have read the charter.
They
It was a
did.
special
And you made a
election
thing.
just for this.
2019,
Yeah,
they
but it was
did.
a
They read it and
special
said no.
election.
Well, they read that
Just
set.
read the
Charter, we read the thing on the ballot.
Yeah,
It's just the
and
thing.
you were like, why would I, yeah,
How contentious term limits are.
they're not.
What happened to the whole charter commission?
But the entire charter isn't going to be, the whole document isn't gonna be in front of voters to read when they're voting.
No, but
What is,
we
Tammy?
have an application.
It's gonna be, it's gonna be.
And I understand that, but it's not being highlighted, is all I'm saying. It's
being
not,
called out as the only.
and people, when they vote, are gonna vote on the
They're
side of what they
asking
think is
for
safe,
our
right?
opinion.
And why is this changing? Somebody's trying to sneak their way into being the mayor forever or something, and they're just gonna go with their gut and say no. But it's, I'm just, I think it does not logically follow that because we make a change that could be seen as contentious, that will torpedo, right? Because there are a lot of other details contextually that make it different than the last time this went before the public. So
Our job as
we
a
should not
commission,
hypothesize in that way.
our job as a commission is to educate the public on the changes that we're proposing. That's our job.
To do what the commission thinks is right.
Well, it's to do what is right, but we want to get input from the public. We need to have ample opportunities for the public to weigh in. And as I said, if the public input that we received felt like it was resoundingly no, then chances are very good, I don't think we would proceed with it.
I don't think we know enough about how the public
No, we don't.
understood those
We don't.
first two efforts based on how it was presented to them.
Absolutely.
I mean, what-
Unfortunately, ballot language is so convoluted,
Remember?
that's hard to decipher.
Yeah.
I don't think it
How
was
many
close.
votes?
No, it was 2-1.
The other thing
The other way,
to
but
keep
didn't
in mind is,
understand
It's entirely
that
possible.
on an average day, Mayor,
That's a whole
you
nother
talk to more negative people than positive people. Because you're the face when somebody doesn't like what's going on, and they don't agree with
They
something.
tell me all about it.
You're the one, so you see it from a different perspective than the rest of us, so.
Remind me someone, Karen, if you know, where in the charter does it say about the sitting out 1 year?
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I know it is, I don't.
Is it in the charter or is it in our rules of
It's in
procedure?
the charter.
No, it's in the charter somewhere. Does
in
anyone know off the top of
5.5C.
your head?
in 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5C.
It's in the section we're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 year
the
out of
second
office
line.
shall qualify a person to serve as, hold on, right in my face.
However, there was a lot of good information if we, I think we've talked through our thoughts on term limits. There was a lot of good stuff that Brad sent us.
That's a little different, but
Before we
It's
go,
different, but it's of the same kind of thing in terms of elections.
before we go there, what was the consensus about removing that 1 year out of office, or are we leaving that, or are we not leaving that? You decide?
I'm with Foster, make it 4.
That's not what
Foster said no, I said 4.
Yeah.
You said 4.
I said
Okay, 4.
I'm like, I think just get
Rid of it?
rid of the 1 year and let people serve an extra 4 years. Like, if
Oh, I see. what
if
you're-
16 years is long enough for someone to have done their service to the community, and we don't think that people should serve indefinitely, I'm just like, make it a little bit longer and say, look, that's it. Like, thank you, but somebody else, we don't want people serving in the same capacity for 30 years. Like, if you wanna make it 24 years, fine, whatever, but like, if you care about term limits, I don't think that people should be able to serve indefinitely by taking 1 year or 2 years off.
Attached to any individual in a way that prevents them from being able to hold office. I think it should be attached to the role, consecutive terms within the role as opposed to the individual.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying though, I don't think that the mayor I don't think that a mayor should not be able to serve 8 years because they served 12 years in the commission. But I don't think a commissioner should be able to serve 45 years because they took a couple of years off twice. Right, so there's two different issues. One
Right, so-
is that taking time off should not give you indefinite service. And two, that serving as a commissioner should not prevent you from having 2 terms as mayor. think that was our issue, was that we don't think that mayors should not be able to serve 2 terms because they served for 8 years as a commissioner.
For 12 years.
So you think that they should be able to serve 8 years, is what you're saying?
Or even maybe, or maybe 12, I don't know what the right number is.
Yeah,
More than 1 term as mayor,
Right.
even though you already served as a commissioner.
Almost like the clock resets when you change job titles.
Yes.
If you're, because it's a position with more responsibility and public pushback if there's something going on in the city. You know, it takes a different set of job skills, so I could definitely see why we would want to have a separate pool of years to use for that as opposed to commissioner, and why we wouldn't want to take our term-limited commissioners out of the running for the mayor. I mean, you have years of experience where the public supported you in that position. Wouldn't we want that type of person to be the face of our city as the mayor? So I agree with Ann. I think making sure that any term limits are tied to the role, not to the individual, would be the safest way.
You could do it like the state legislature does it, where they have 3 2-year terms for House members and then 2 4-year terms for Senate. So a lot of times people fill out their 6 years in the House, then run for Senate, and then do 8 years in the Senate. So like, that's a way to do it, you're doing it by role, which is what you're saying.
Don't wanna do 2-year terms, though.
Right, I'm just saying you could, let's say 3
Yeah.
4-year
But
terms.
I think what we come back to is you guys are gonna do focus groups. And so I would really like to know what the community thinks about coming back and running for office after you've been gone 1 term. Again, I think we're such a small community, there's a limited voter pool, there just is, right? And we if we have someone that's been in for office, let's just say 60 years or 24 years, and they're no longer able to do their job, but they're also, they don't know it, let's just use that as an example. Our rules and procedures have a way of dealing with that person. They're no longer competent. We can censure.
Let's not get into that.
No, we're not, but what I'm saying is, there are other avenues, if that is the main concern. I don't wanna prevent a good public servant from never running for a commissioner again if they served their 4 years when they were 30 to 45.
You don't want
Same when
any
they're
term
60.
limits, no term limits.
No, I think there should be a break.
It's a term limit, it's not a person limit. I think that's the distinction, right? You can limit somebody's terms, like, you know, consecutive terms in office, but can you go to a person and say, so-and-so have served your 20 years, you may never run for local office again? That's where I think we run into trouble.
I mean, if you do not even consecutive terms, but just say you can run no more than 3 total terms as a commissioner and 2 total terms as a mayor, that means they don't have to be consecutive. You could run for 8 years as a commissioner, take a break for a few years, and then come back for 4 more years later on.
That might be the solution to a compromise.
I'd be interested to see after you guys think about it more.
What the focus groups say.
Okay. Thank you very much for that input, appreciate it. Now then. Karen, you mentioned you wanted to talk about.
I don't know, are we ready?
I guess it depends.
I know, it depends on who you talk to, right? Where are we going? Yes.
Okay, everyone, we're talking about Grants Meadows. And has everyone received this? All the commissioners have received this? Have you had a chance to read through it?
The part that I liked is that it spelled out the process for resigning your seat. You're not running for 2 offices at the same time. There was good stuff in this that was separate from the term conversation.
Right. This is more qualifications for,
Has that ever happened here? Someone running for 2 different elected offices at the same time?
Can't.
No.
Marcy wouldn't let it happen because it's state law. You can't be on two elected at the same time. You can't be in the same two elections at the same time. If I win that one, I'll take that one. If I lose that one,
One question then, for us, because we have staggered, is the last paragraph of this, first introductory part. Whether we want to have, if someone who's a city commissioner wants to run for mayor and is not successful, are we going to require them to relinquish their seat?
If their term is not.
Their term is not finished, right?
I think there's no question if their term is expiring. They can, they're not going to be in office afterwards either way.
the MML attorney who's been a mayor and a city attorney at several,
Northville.
Chris Johnson.
Johnson,
Chris Johnson, that's the one I believe.
is strongly in favor of not having an election where the city commissioner, if they lose, stays on the commission with the new mayor they ran against. That creates difficulties.
Right, I mean, he has that, he's coming at it from the two experiences of being a mayor for a long time and being general counsel of MML, but yeah, I mean, I thought his input was interesting, and then I did some research and I included some of the cities that have these provisions. It seems to make good sense in that it, kind of the two main arguments are, one, it's providing for continuity of government, because let's say somebody runs for mayor that's on the commission that's not expiring and they win, then all of a sudden, right after the election, you've got a vacancy you gotta fill. Then you gotta appoint somebody till the next election or call a special election right after you had an election, which is kind of a.
That's the part I liked, is that there's no question about what to do. It's kind of, it's spelled out. You don't have to, if it happens, we don't have to figure it out.
In my mind, that creates almost an abuse of the democratic process, because then the person that ran and won is having a hand in appointing the person that's gonna fill their own seat, and
That's
that
the
person's not elected until the next election, so it's like, okay. So there's that
You could
argument.
make that argument for any appointment. You could have made that argument for my appointment or Amanda's or David's for that matter.
But it just creates that position of where you're coming into, you're in a position, you're leaving that position to take another position on the council, and then you're taking a vote to fill that seat that you just left, so it's just a little bit of a continuity issue there, and then, like I said, it creates the vacancy, so you've got either
It's a
call a
vote.
special election or you gotta wait till the next election.
It's a vote that's taken among commissioners, correct? It's not a direct appointment by the.
No, it's a vote of the commission.
It's a vote of the commission.
And then the other argument was the, more of the kind of, it lets you focus more on governance instead of letting political animosities creep in, because then you've got somebody that you defeated in an election you're serving with for 4 years or however many years. And then that just creates tension and potential for politics seeping into the discussions of the commission instead of governance as being the focus of it, so those are the two.
I'm not so concerned about that. For me, it's more, first part that we talked about.
It's,
Sorry.
First part.
Continuity of government argument.
Yes.
The fact that you're creating a vacancy right after an election.
And then, yes.
I can say there's disruption there, but seems problematic to me if the only purpose is to avoid disruption on the basis of political disagreement.
I agree.
you,
Contrary.
Jennifer and I did this, and it's very difficult. She has to sit there and listen to me who beat her in an election, and it isn't pleasant, and creates all kind of monsters.
I understand that, but
And that's why across the nation, it's more commonly done, where you can't run and keep your seat.
I understand that there can be animosity and disagreement on the commission, but the commission is not an entity that's purpose is to make you happy.
It's
I-
also not our job to dictate the opinions or conduct of individuals.
What'd you say, Ann?
I just don't see it as our role to, through this process, to mitigate the conduct of individuals in separate instances where that may or may not be the case.
Right. Yeah, I think to expand on what I was saying, can you prove to me that people that disagree on the commission is worse government than people disagreeing on the commission? That sounds like a hypothesis to me without any foundation in fact. It's less enjoyable to work. way, undoubtedly, but that does not make it less good work. I would think that having disagreement within the commission would make the commission a stronger body, because it's not just a bunch of yes men who all agree with each other and do whatever they want. There should be disagreement on the commission. That's how you work through material to come to a compromise that's gonna represent people of diverse backgrounds and opinions, right?
However, that's one thing, but this part that I was saying I think is important is if you're running for mayor and you're a current city commissioner, you're either staying a city commissioner or you're running for mayor, right? If you run for mayor and you get it, we need to know ahead of time that that seat's gonna be a vacant so that we can allow someone to run for that seat. That to me is the most important part of this and spelling that out.
I mean, the other,
That makes sense.
not that anyone necessarily do this, but what if somebody is a commissioner, runs for mayor, and then says, never mind, I don't want to be mayor anymore, even after they win? They're gonna keep their commission seats, then the mayor's vacant, and you gotta have another special election to fill the mayor's seat that just was elected, so it just creates a
But
potential.
I would be interested in the other places in the United States that are leaning towards what you're saying, Mayor. Is that, because you go to the MML, you go to the mayor's conferences, what's kind of the consensus there?
I can tell there's 5 states that have laws on this, that it's basically a resign to run law, that's what they're called. There's 5, Michigan's not one of them, but there are 5 states that have them. And it's state law that you can't, if you're in a current office, you can't run for another office unless you resign your office you're in, usually well in advance of the filing deadline.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a state law in 5 states, but it's not in Michigan, so.
Can you tell us which states?
No, Georgia, somewhere in the Plain States, I think Florida. I know there's 5. Hawaii is one. The other ones I don't know. But if you can Google resign to run laws.
Well, and if,
Resign to run.
well, and if it's law in 5 states, that means how many states is it not law in? How many?
45.1.
Here's the thing, other municipalities,
The country.
other municipalities,
That's important.
Seat.
Well, that's state law, but then city
State.
charter is a little different, and I haven't done an exhaustive research of every
I'm
city.
sure there's a lot of
Michigan.
cities that do
But the
that.
charters I've looked at, or it seems about half of them, at least the ones that have bifurcated terms, which we do, commissioners, say that if you're not expiring your term, if you're gonna run for the mayor, you have to resign.
Designed to run.
So,
That makes sense to me.
and
Well, my concern about that, just to offer another perspective, is, if you have a good commissioner who wants to become mayor and they run, and you force them off and they lose the race, then you've lost a good commissioner, and you have to find someone else to replace that individual. It also seems to me like it kind of would actually lose some continuity, I suppose, if you had someone who'd been serving on the commission who then ran for mayor. And if that person won, then you still have to fill the thing, but my
There would
point
be an
about.
election for that person, they'd be on the ballot.
My point is, I'm concerned very much about the language of, having to do with the animosities and political ambition. To my mind, the city charter is not meant to adjudicate personality differences. Anybody who runs for office would have political ambitions that might get in the way of the elected people. There's no guarantee that they're not. That really lies in the purview of the commission as a legislative team. It's really the commission's responsibility as a legislative team to try and work that stuff out if possible. I don't think it bothers me to use the charter to try and mitigate that. My 2 cents.
Here.
Anyway, our purpose here is to discuss. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I have a question on that.
Yes.
How frequently would you have potentially multiple commissioners running for mayor on the same ballot?
An interesting question.
I believe once, since I've lived here 20 years.
Could happen, well, it could,
Could happen every time.
right, but again, if it happens and the person resigns, you have the seat available for someone to run during the election.
So,
I mean, I think,
everyone on the commission decided to run for mayor, and the mayor could, had another term, right? They could, and, but they all lose. Like, so then you're just left with one mayor, right, and no commissioners.
Well, but it can't happen because of the way the offices are.
Yeah.
You might have three.
It would, because you have to resign to run for mayor. So you,
Oh, you're saying if everybody resigned.
everybody resigned because they wanted to run for mayor against the incumbent.
I think we'd be on the national news.
We would be, we would be.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
think about in that scenario, how's the commission gonna function for that election season?
They're going on hiatus.
Well, I don't know, I guess ask the states, those 5 states that have the law, what they do.
I know we're getting kind of excited, but I do have something I wanna say. I think that when any individual puts themselves forward to be put on a commission, a city commission, a nonpartisan city board, we know we are going to be mixed with people who we don't know what their personal, political, religious, any type of background would be outside of what they show the public. There's no guarantee at any point that we will blend together well as a commission. It is the diligence of each individual commissioner who has been either appointed or elected to work cohesively together for the greater good of the city. And that is the intent you're supposed to run for these positions with. And I think that it would be harmful for our community if you had a commissioner with all of those thoughts and knowledge of being a commissioner, running for the mayor's seat, having to lose their seat because they lost the mayoral. You know, we all have to do difficult things. At the end of the day, if a commissioner runs and it's not the end of their term, they're only here for another couple of years anyways. And then the people can choose to keep them or remove them. I don't think they should be forced to rescind the people's voice in their being a commissioner just because they had aspirations to be the mayor. In a 4-year term, in a nonpartisan position, in a local city commission.
But if this is a legitimate concern too, and that the commission through rules of procedure,
Sorry, Ann.
isn't it possible for the commission through rules of procedure anyway to deal with someone who, let's say, is sour grapes and becoming toxic, right? Are there not other ways to address that behavior rather than to set up process to cut it off in the first place?
I think there's still 2 different issues. The getting along thing, I think we've all kind of talked through. What Amanda is saying is kind of counter to what I've been saying and the mayor's been saying. And we're not picking sides here, I'm just saying we're comparing the 2 different stances, right? So stance 1 is resign to run. Stance 2 is like a lot of the other conversations we've been having where we don't want to tie the hands of a commission just because in the future, something like happened at the last election where you both ran for mayor, you didn't resign your seat. We don't want to tie the hands of the future by saying you have to resign to run. So there's the getting along and then there's resign to run. Those are the 2 separate things we're talking about.
Could the commission, in their own rules of procedure, say that you have to resign if you want to run for mayor?
So,
That's
that come from the charter, I think.
I think that should be in the charter.
I'm just like curious if that's like a possibility, because, I mean, it seems like the commission's rules of procedure can change
Yeah, but
very easily. So if this commission doesn't think that someone on the commission should be able to run for mayor, right, and while still holding their commission seat, then they could put that into the rules of procedure. And theory.
I think there's problems there, cause then you're politicizing the rules of procedure and you're making it so you're weaponizing them every.
Keep it in the charter.
That's a bones of government type decision on the charter, right? So that's a.
Rules of procedure gets voted on every single year. You could be going boo, 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 every single year.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's really fair. Like,
Well, the rules of procedure are really designed to lay out rules for running meetings,
Right.
not for determining who's gonna be for
Qualifications.
office or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought, but I'm just like, I'm just thinking if we, as in the charter, right, like, say, we're willing to go this far, if you wanna go farther as a commission, then that's on them, but, like, so we're not preventing it from happening, per se, but we're allowing it to happen if people want it to happen.
I think it has to be a charter decision one way or the other, if, you know, either it's in there like these other city charters or it's not, and that's the way you go, either way, so.
Is there a way to find out how many city charters in Michigan do have that term limit? And that might be useful information for the Revision Commission?
We don't wanna pay
Yeah,
Brad.
you don't wanna pay me to do that.
Is there an easy way? Either way. Easy.
That's something I think the Charter Revision Commission can try to put our heads to.
Okay.
MML might have resources on that, I mean, you might call them and
If
say,
it's a leading trend, and that's the way our state is lending itself, maybe it has greater weight, but if it's just the city's presented in the documentation, then that's still, again, the majority of the state, and we didn't have it that way before, and it's a different thing to be considering at that point.
right, I don't know how, I mean, like I said, I found 3 cities in my couple hours of research that do it, and so that's what I put in here. I found 2 or 3 that didn't, so I put the ones that did, although I don't know with those ones that didn't, if they had a bifurcated system like we have, where it's a bifurcated term of office. Because all the ones where they have it are like Big Rapids, they have a bifurcated term, where you have some that aren't expiring their term, some that are staggered terms. So,
Let me bring it back to a point that Ann made earlier, and that is ultimately we need a document that reflects what the city of Big Rapids needs and what our culture is about and what makes the best sense for our population going forward.
I think it would be
So,
interesting and probably difficult to know how many cities that have the design to run rule that are like our city with staggered terms, how many of them limit the mayor to terms based on their time as a commissioner. Right?
The correlation.
Because the cities that have the design to run rule may not be limiting the mayor based on their time served on commission. Which would be a huge difference between us and change how we think about how we want to address it.
if you look at that Hamtramck example, it's, they have it both ways. So council members who run for mayor have to resign, and the mayor who wants to run for a council seat after his term has to resign.
Right, but are they term limited from serving in a different capacity? Right, because if they're not, then it's not as big a deal that they have to resign.
giving us lots of things to research. Thank you all very much for that robust discussion. I think that is, we can let the city commission go at this point if you want to talk about the website. I do want to thank you very much for giving us your time. This was very good input, very useful, and we will, I know we'll be having a good conversation at our next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Gifford, for sitting here through all of it.
Just joyful, every night you get to stay here, right?
And you too, Tamara Gillis, soon to be retired.
And enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Jennifer, do you need me to stay for this, or? No? Okay. Thank you.
need to take a little break?
I'm good.
Good?
I do.
Okay,
We're gonna take a 5
take 5.
outside for a minute.
You stick around and get beat on for a little bit,
I
Steve?
don't know if I'm sticking around,
We'd like
stick
you.
around, Karen, or what?
Got out of it like early.
How are you?
How's your mom doing?
She's doing well.
She good? Still working at the school?
No,
She
she
retired?
some time ago.
Did she? I haven't seen her in a while, well, other than that night here.
Thank you.
I wanna say like
So I didn't want to
14 or 15, she retired.
Oh, okay, that was been a while.
She's been out for a while.
all the rest of it done.
So the gentleman who lived in where Belagas used to live, there,
Large living room,
north, those big hemlock trees. that-
tiny office with a
Just had
tiny
those taken down.
bedroom.
Did he?
Yeah, it looks so different.
laundry
The black
room.
looks really weird. You should drive by and see it. It doesn't look like the same.
Touch-ups and other places throughout this house.
I haven't decided yet. It's nice to know.
Nice house. It's not that big.
Sure.
But it is a little bit.
Oh, I'll have to do that.
off with him just to see open
Grand
stuff
Haven.
like that from her.
Is he still here?
Staying on site
The tall guy.
is like
No, he's.
housing association, basically right on Lake Michigan. This house didn't have a view of Lake Michigan, but it's like a mile
Okay, yeah.
with
August 6th.
the housing association access to the lake. It was the smallest house in the housing association. Crazy. Like, yeah, like driving back and forth, I'm like, there's no way we're driving an hour and a half in both directions every day. And so it's like, okay, we can stay on site, that's great, but if I stay on site, then I can't come to this meeting, and like, we're really short.
Yeah.
But then it's steps change all the time, so it's like, okay, I need to go do this, or else I'm not gonna have any money. And it just fell into, I'm like,
There we have it.
but, yeah.
Do that.
Keep it up, keep it up.
Take over the job?
Yeah, I've been working really hard, honestly,
Good,
taking classes
good.
and my certification.
Okay, there you go. Where are they?
I sent you a worksheet, put, on the new business letter B, public outreach. As the head of the outreach subcommittee, Brian and I had a meeting. I contacted him to talk about some things. And one thing that we talked about was that we really need a central hub on the website to drive people to for information about what we're doing, how we're doing it. And you see, what I'm envisioning here would be, a definition of the charter, maybe our elevator pitch or a revised version of that, the charge for this commission, who we are, and I really would recommend that we have a group photo with names so that the public can see who we are. Links to the live stream videos with minutes and the agendas and so forth, and a means for contacting us. Right now, we have a location on the website that has nothing on it. It says Charter Revision Commission, it's under the clerk's link. Now, I guess, as I was thinking through this, which I got to at the last question there, is, because I have a model that my husband gave me for something that he did when he was at Ferris that would have links to various things on this front page. The essential question I think maybe we need to talk about before we even get into the other stuff is, we are meant to be independent from the city. Does it make sense for us to ask the city to do that website, or should we be thinking about creating our own? But then the question is, who of us do that? or how would we do that? Any thoughts on that one?
My thoughts are that not really that independent from the city because
Depend on them for money.
Exactly.
we have city,
I was thinking.
we have city
We're
employees.
meeting in their location, we're streaming on their YouTube.
We have city employees that are.
No better place to find
involved in
the information.
our process.
I don't see an issue
So
with
I don't-
utilizing their website.
I mean, these guys?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they do more than just like print stuff for us.
Yes,
Not
they do.
only that, but this is where people are logically going to look for it. And introducing another domain or another identity for them to find it, I think kind of further
I think it would be very difficult.
I think that not
well,
only that, it'd be very much more expensive.
It's our job as participants in this to not be influenced by the resources that we do need to use.
I think that the first thing that is probably the most important here is, when is Tim gonna roll out that brand new website? There's no point in putting a lot of energy on this website right now that is going to be obsolete in about a week or 2 weeks.
I was gonna raise that too.
Anything yet, are you?
No.
No.
So once you're ready, I mean, it won't be a problem to get it on there. And there's a level of security that comes with our website that you're probably not going to get from using
Right.
something else either, which is
Do you have an
important.
ETA for when the new one's rolling out?
Tim just got back today from vacation. So he said as soon as he gets back, he is going to be rolling out that new website.
Okay, I had anticipated that, among the people we would need to sit down with would be Tim.
Yeah.
Now, is there anyone besides Tim that we should be talking with?
No, it would be Tim. Because he'd be able to tell you exactly, about the website, how much you're gonna get, or whether you get how many pages. I mean, because we have an agreement with, of course, this, website.
Revise.
Website, and I'm not sure what all of that technical is. He would be able to tell you, this is what you get, this is what you can do, this is.
I'm not super familiar with website construction, but I'm familiar enough that I feel pretty confident that the amount of information that we would want on the city website is not big enough to make a difference.
You'll be fine.
And I'm sure of that.
Are either of you on the steering committee? You're on the steering committee? Okay, that's good. Glad to know that. The kinds of things that we're looking for, you think?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem, absolutely.
And I don't think it would take Tim very long. I
That's
think
awesome.
the biggest issue for him would just having all the material in front of him, all of our photos, all of the relevant
Well-
text that we want in there, all in one easy, simple,
That stuff
unformatted
is a cut and
document.
paste job,
Yeah.
as long as the people who
Provide it.
determine what the information will be, have all of it present and correct and ready to go and aren't making a million changes after the fact. It's pretty much cut and paste.
I was actually thinking a group photo.
I like that idea better.
Yeah, okay. But that's,
Actually, you can let us know and Steve could come and take the group photo.
yeah.
And maybe we could get like really big name tags so that it was clear who was who.
Hi, it's like the Mickey Mouse Club.
Just a piece of paper we're all holding up with our own names.
And if we could have a heads up so I'm not wearing a giraffe shirt on the night of it. Really appreciative. Thanks, Mom.
Okay. One of the things we talked about, of course, was wanting to get going with, like, the farmer's market, the tables at various places, but we want, I suppose, we could give people, well, I don't know if the URL's gonna change if the website, new website. Because what we want to do is have like a bookmark with some facts and figures about CRC and the URL on it.
Or a QR code.
Or a QR code. I know you folks mentioned a QR code the last time. So, because the idea is to start making that information accessible and helping people, you know, kind of driving people to that hub as one, certainly one means of public outreach thing. Did I understand? So, okay, we will. When do you think I should contact him and start maybe get on his schedule? It doesn't have to be like in the next day or two, but.
Well, I would say Monday, you're gonna be here to talk with Brad. Tim's mostly here in the mornings, he gets there like 6 to 1:30, 6 to 2, something like that. So probably anytime in Monday morning, you could pop in.
What time are you,
You know, just let us know, and I can let Tim.
Monday morning?
No, I'm seeing Brad in the afternoon.
I was gonna say,
guys
Bryce
have-
have all morning.
You're having interviews.
Tim.
I know you're talking about Tim, but Tim.
He's meeting with Brad at 3.
I know, I get it, but they're not here at the same time.
No, they're not.
Okay, so come next week.
Yeah, what time do you want me to,
Reach out to him and get on his schedule. And
Let's
let
see.
him know what we're thinking.
tell me what time I can catch up with Tim right now? I mean,
Well, I think I'm open all morning, as far as I know. Oh, yeah. I'll check my
I put things in my phone calendar and then people are like, oh, you wanna hang out like next Thursday? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I look at my phone calendar and I'm like, I have 7 things.
that's why, because you look at it.
I put them in and I tell it to remind me and then I don't check it.
I would lean towards mid-morning, if that works for you.
That's better for me, yes. I like mid-morning. Mid-morning works for me. So what's 10?
10?
Good?
Meet Tim at 10.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let him tomorrow.
If you would like me to join you,
Pardon me?
if you would like me to join you, I may know some stuff that we may need to consider about the structure of the
If
page.
you're available, that would be awesome.
Monday at 10?
10 o'clock on the 15th? Yeah. that would be
Well,
awesome. Thank
email
you.
it to you and confirm.
I'm not in town next week,
You're not in town next week.
but I would like to,
I hope you're going somewhere fun.
no, Wisconsin.
Oh, come on.
Wisconsin is fun. There's no laws in Wisconsin.
It's fun if you like cheese.
Brian, if you want, I can follow up with you if I can.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. Awesome sauce. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to add about that? Anne's joining. I love field trips. Okay. All right, I'm excited to be getting that going because I want that, see that get up and running as soon as we're. All right, does anyone else have anything about public outreach they want to offer at this? In your packet also, I was hashing out what I thought would be a tentative schedule for us for the rest of this calendar year. This is of course fluid, needless to say. My thinking is, we're aiming, remind me if I remember this correctly, but we're aiming to try and get the draft to the governor by 1st of September 25. For a full year, she and the AG to do what they need to do. So again, depending on what we come across, and this is completely tentative, I was hoping if we could get through the actual chapters by December, and then fine tune those first 6 months of 2025. And see if we can go back and do something again. In the meantime, the wordsmithing can be smithing. We can be smithing the words. And throughout all of this, the public outreach is going to be ongoing. Brian and I talked about, and I know we talked about this before, figuring out kind of a schedule of visiting with local community groups, varying kinds. Commissioner, I asked Commissioner Johnson, because she's a young person, and she's tuned into young people, because Brian and I were talking about TikTok, and should we be thinking about doing something on TikTok or Instagram, or I don't know what, because that's like a whole nother universe to me. And she suggested actually our best bet is in small personal contact. If anybody knows people who are in gaming groups and you can talk to them, that would be great. If any kind of small groups where you participate in something. I was wondering whether Jennifer, we have to ask her when she comes back, for the Jelly Ballers. If she has an opportunity to talk with her clients at any time, it's kind of spread the word about that. As with anything political, when it really comes down to it, it's like the one-on-one, one-on-small group that helps people to get informed without feeling overwhelmed. You go to where they are. We don't require them always to come to us, right? So we're going to be at the farmer's market and welcome them to come to our table, answer any questions. We were thinking to set up tables in other places, if I remember. And we can do that, but I think it's important, we want to get started on that fairly soon, before the summer.
Would be a good spot.
That would be a good spot.
Well, and maybe like with someplace like the roller rink, let us have like a little.
The roller rink?
Or the library.
The library has a lot of events too.
The only problem we're gonna have, the only issue is trying to gear it towards city residents and not getting a bunch of township surveys.
That's true.
The townships isn't gonna vote on this. That's, you know what I mean? They may have their opinion, but they're not gonna vote on it.
Yeah.
That might be.
We want to talk about, we probably, need to be thinking about getting a survey out, but we need to determine what it is what kind of input we're seeking from the public. So I'll just ask you to be thinking about that for the next meeting and come back with some ideas about how we can get that survey going, and then we will avail ourselves of Anne's expertise.
I would suggest too that a great time, a good idea just in general, is to roll all that stuff out as one package, right? So if you have a web page that we're already kind of planning on launching, have that survey be locked down and ready to go as a part of that. So when you're presenting it to people, you're presenting it all at once and capture their comments on their visit while they're there instead of expecting them to circle back to it later.
Idea. Okay.
Did we have somebody that was gonna do the survey? Somebody?
I think Anne was going to help us with that.
I need to know consensus on what everybody wants in it, but I can certainly help you create one.
Do you do SurveyMonkey?
You can use SurveyMonkey, I've done that. You can use Google tools.
Yeah, I've done Google, like polls and surveys too. It's pretty easy generally. It's more about the content that you want
How complex is it?
what you're what system you're gonna use.
How much logic does it use, that kind of thing.
And of course, like maintaining confidentiality.
We're pretty reliable for that.
Maybe if you are available, you and I could sit down and, Ryan, if you're, or we'll wait till you're back. How long are you away from?
I'll be back next Thursday or Friday, I'm not sure yet.
Okay, maybe when Ryan gets back, the three of us could sit down and kind of hash that out so we can get a structure around it, what we're thinking to do. Okay, good. Last but not least, I just wanted us, and I asked Tammy to print out so that we all of us have a copy of our budget that we agreed upon, which was then approved by the city commission at that meeting, so that we know, because we're thinking about, of course, something like bookmarks, we're gonna need to figure out how much that's gonna cost, for how much volume that we're planning to do. I meant to ask you, Tam, if, is this the kind of budget where if we don't use the money from one category, we can move it to something else if we need more money in a different area?
Yes, except for the city attorney.
Except for the city attorney.
You can do, any of the, because if you look at the, if you look at this page here, where it's actually in the budget,
Yeah,
the 4,100 is just under supplies.
okay,
So you can use it,
okay, very good.
Seems like the staff overtime should be separate from supplies.
I was just gonna
We're
ask,
not in there.
staff overtime is not,
We're in their budget, but it's
Right,
not
we're-
Overtime,
yeah,
$2,500.
not here.
That's included in the
Yes, it is.
100
It is,
supplies.
and that's how the treasurer put it together.
Well, I've got beef with that treasurer.
I mean,
we
they
don't,
make
we
the
don't wanna,
budget,
we
not
don't
us.
wanna dip into the staff overtime either.
That's what I'm saying.
They want that,
We can't reappropriate staff overtime that's already been paid.
That's right.
but that would be a different GL number, she wanted it all under one, I'm sure.
Okay. All
I
right,
do have, one thing, Jennifer, under old business, we can either do this next time. 3.9 is, when I talked about that responsibility of the city manager, you guys wanna take a look at your, minutes here in the packet. Number K. That's the one that you and I discussed that we thought had changed. And on here, it's not changed in the minutes, but it's now changed on the flash drive in purple.
I'm glad you reminded me.
Stacy, would you? Yeah. Either we could do it, you look at it now, or we could do it next time.
Well, I would like for everyone to see that language. Is that okay? Is the thing still up? It's on page 6 of this handout.
And I'm not sure why it didn't get changed in the minutes, but
Well, actually, yeah, it's on the,
I thought we talked about it.
we met with Mark Gifford, and he recommended some simpler language
Yeah.
for this, which Stacy has a copy of. And I just wanted to make sure we went over that with everybody.
I just don't want to forget about that section there.
I'm glad you remembered, because I did forget.
Purple under K, 3.9.
It is. After every regular city election.
Yeah.
So what we changed it to was what's up on the screen. After every regular city election, the city manager or designee shall schedule an orientation session for nope, that's the old one.
No, that's what you gave me.
Is it? I beg your pardon. Okay. An orientation session for elected officials, administrative officers, their deputies, and others in the,
No, the purple, we've changed it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
One on the bottom, yeah, that is the same.
I'm sorry. Stacy, can you read that? It's a little far for me.
After every regular city election, the city manager or designee shall schedule an orientation session for elected officials.
period.
The session shall include a review of local government documents, including laws and regulations involving elected bodies, the city budget, as well as visits to city-owned facilities and introductions to department heads.
And that's actually already been done and doing with Commissioner Rhodes. He's already gone to.
Oh, good.
To this visit. Monday, he went and visited the facilities. And he's already met with Mark Monday afternoon, and yeah, so that's already in.
Okay. Are you giving us a new printout of all of the changes for the next minutes?
Yes,
Minutes of this meeting?
well, you have them here except for that in the.
Except for that one? Okay,
Except for that one, because I couldn't put it in here because we didn't,
all right.
which I thought we had, but. why it wasn't.
Okay.
So are we talking about it now, and do we like that?
Yes.
This is what,
Any feedback on that?
so then I could put it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Does that wording work okay for?
I mean, we took out administrative officers, their deputies, and others at the direction of the officers.
Yeah, I think this.
Only because administrative, like, Karen goes to a specialty institute that costs $1,000. Not everybody else is gonna go. I mean, it's specialized to her. Certain things are specialized, and actually it's impossible to have it open to the public. I'm not paying anybody who wants to go with Karen to, I'm not doing
Spend the
it.
week with me? I'll go.
Man, vacation plan.
I know.
I mean, no.
I would only ask if the same thing that you've raised in other instances applies here with the whole handcuff to process thing. Do we want the charter to dictate what that orientation session includes?
Not really, but that does, I don't think it really, well, yeah, I see what you mean. It does say,
How about-
well, laws and regulations, including the city budget, which is not really a thing. And visits to city-owned facilities and introduction to department heads really doesn't, I don't think, ties the hands too much. I mean, they should be, but I see what you mean. Should we have to spell that out in the
Like
charter?
it seems to vary in its detail from other instances where we're
is.
prescribing activities. I wonder if it can't just say, shall schedule an orientation session for elected officials consistent with,
Duties.
with their
The duties outlined in this charter.
its rules of procedure.
Well, the duties outlined in the charter isn't much for a commissioner.
Yeah.
So it's just the same thing with the open meeting act, what Brad was talking about. They're not really outlined. It's only like this big.
I would feel better if we keep the legal stuff. The budget and the visits to facilities probably could be left out. But
Laws and
it's
regulations.
important to make sure that new commissioners from the get-go understand Open Meetings Act, FOIA laws, and anything else that legally governs their job as a commissioner. But that's
You
me.
can put a period after elected bodies,
Yep.
and then strike out the rest. And then above Stacy, where it's K, strike out that whole thing, because now K is the purple stuff.
Delete. Was there anything else in?
I'm sorry I wasn't here last meeting. There's one really little thing on 5.5B, and it's just something that I'd like wordsmith maybe a little better. It's right in the beginning, in the event an election to fill the remaining portion of an unexpired term in the office of the city commissioner is conducted, the candidate receiving the highest number of votes for the vacant term shall be elected. I don't know of any other system of election in which the person receiving the highest votes does not win. I understand that the following line saying if there's more than one seat to be filled, that the person who receives the second most would also receive a seat.
In service of that second statement.
But it just reads as like,
It's very cumbersome.
just dumb. I'm like, this can be condensed into something that reads like it makes more sense.
Yeah, I'd say take that to the wordsmithing committee.
Yeah, it's just a wordsmithing thing, and of course the extra paragraph break that
Yeah,
there,
that
but
needs to come back.
For wordsmith committee.
Do you want that marked somehow on here?
We'll put wordsmithing at the very, you know, and like highlight in yellow and put wordsmithing underneath or something, in red or something.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Proceed from old business.
I
Oh.
just had a couple of things reading through. 3.3C.
3.3 what?
C.
3.3C.
You're
Okay,
Um,
is everyone there?
So, looks like the fourth line on here, says, members appointed to such boards shall not exceed 4. And it doesn't say for what. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be years.
It's the terms of members.
Shall not exceed 4
Shall not exceed.
Members appointed to such boards shall not exceed 4. Probably should say.
Yeah, years.
That's
It's years,
It's years, not terms.
I thought this was 4 terms.
it says 4 terms right afterward.
members appointed shall not exceed 4, and no person shall serve more than 4 consecutive terms. So I'm thinking a term is 4 years,
Yeah.
so it should say
I think
4
we were
years.
just supposed to strike that previous passage.
Well,
Except as
it says
otherwise,
the terms
There's two different
shall
things
not
here.
exceed 4, presumably years, and then also no more than 4 consecutive
Terms.
full terms.
Which means 12 years. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be years there. Yeah.
4 years, yeah.
So the
That would
term
be
shall for more than 4
16.
consecutive full terms, which is 12 years.
16 years.
Just insert